First of all, the talk is about Discord as malware infrastructure and all the things that surround that and the whole threat landscape. Before we start diving deep, let's do the obligatory who am I? My name is David. You probably saw me lurking around between everyone here. I've been in the field. I started as a black hat, as the pesky little kid who learned all the stuff from a dark web forum, as funny as it sounds. And luckily for me, I got a very quick turnaround on my career path. I got enlisted to the Israeli army and became a malware researcher for them. I've been doing that for 5 years with the army. Left for a R&D role where I wanted to learn how to properly do detections at scale. And I did I want to say 1 billion files a week, that kind of scale. And now I'm with the CyberArk Labs family, which is amazing. And a couple more things. First of all, I'm a very early Discord adopter, so I saw the whole threat landscape shift and change through my own eyes. And I've been a community manager for let's say a 10,000 member community who's responsible for game development. And last but not least, I think a lot of you are in a similar position like me. I have way too many hobbies. Just to count some of them, I've been dabbling with FPV drones, algo trading, and whatnot. So if you think you have an obscure hobby and you don't have a colleague to do it with, check with me. I'll probably will do that sometime, knowing myself. So let's go over the agenda. First of all, we're going to talk about the dangers of Discord, how are users being targeted and attacked, and the different methods I saw through this research. Next best thing, we're going to talk about the new threat actor I found. They're called Kurdistan 4455. They operate from southern Turkey. And the cool thing about them is not only they attack users on Discord, they also targeted some other attackers. So we're going to use them, and we're going to use them as a lens to look at how they misuse the infrastructure and how they abuse the infrastructure. And it's important to say that they're not the only one. There's a lot of groups out there that do the same thing. It's kind of a trend, but we are going to use them as an example. And last but not least, we're going to talk about trends in general of the threat landscape. We did a lot of data mining and data analysis work for that, and we can see the trends of what's happened over the past 3 years. Lost my screen. Need a different adapter. Let's try a different one. Okay, 1 sec. Let me change this. Working now. There you go. Okay. So, yeah, so that's the agenda. The things that we're not going to cover is, first of all, the injections of code inside of Electron.js apps. As much as I want to talk about that, and I will try to talk about it if I have a little bit of time, but it's too much of a big topic, and hopefully I'll have a talk about it probably next year. Another thing, we're not going to do a deep dive into the malware itself. Most of the malware on Discord is rather simple. It's written in Python usually, and there's no crazy special capabilities. I will focus on the interesting parts of each malware and how it works. but I won't do a deep dive. So there is no deep, intense reverse engineering here. And last thing, I'm not gonna give you the best cookie recipe, although I might will. And no, this is not a Rickroll. So if you want to get a good recipe, have fun. Yeah, let's get started. I said the word Discord like 20 times, but I guess for most of the people in the world, Discord is like a gaming community and having friends at leisure time. But just to just prove the point, who here uses Discord on at least a weekly basis? Like expected. And who here ever used Discord at least once during the work time? For the people online, pretty much everyone said yes. And the thing is, most people associate Discord as a casual platform. It's based on a lot of communities where you work with just nicknames and you don't exactly know who's behind the nickname. And it gets compounded with the fact that Discord doesn't have any way to verify who's behind the user. So that's a massive problem. And to add on top of that, Discord is extremely popular around the younger ages. To be exact, 40% of the users are between 18 and 24, and the second largest group is the underage group. So groups that don't have any cybersecurity awareness training or anything, so they're extremely easy to target. But at the same time, not only those are targeted, but everyone are. Everyone is. Before we go into how they do it, we need to understand how they do any account impersonations. And we're going to talk about the actual user ID and how it works. So the first part is the nickname, where you can control it easily and you change it to whatever you want. The second part is a randomly generated ID. If you're paying for Disco Nitro, you can change it and modify it, but if not, it's fully random. And here I have a little exercise for everyone here. Can you spot the differences? There's at least two. Yep, the Russian G. What else? Any guesses? The E is a bit tricky, yes. And people already told me a couple of times that the U and the S, somehow the difference between, like the distance between them is a bit odd. But in reality, I'm going to show you, every single character here is not from the English language. Because someone at Discord decided that, yes, it's smart to do Unicode. And recently, recently I say about a week ago, they did a very big update. They changed the way the user IDs work. And you would have thought, yeah, sure, they would make it a little bit more secure. They would change remove the Unicode or something. No, they just removed the randomly generated ID. And now you don't need to pay to do any account impersonations. At this point, I want to say a huge shout out to Yulia from the CyberArk Labs. She created a cute tool that allowed me to find all the similar characters. She did it through image similarity. Yeah, now that we know how people impersonate others and how easy it is, let's talk about the different attacks. First of all, there's the classic money scam. I assume most of you saw a hey, you just won money, or you just won a NFT giveaway. Please register and have fun. So here we won just a third of a Bitcoin. I really wish it's true, but okay. The second account is the account takeover. Those guys usually just want to get the session token. Discord is basically a web app in all manners, so they just try to steal that token. They use a lot of phishing, and they do a bypass for two-factor authentication, where instead of trying to create a phishing thingy for them to mistakenly put in the bypass, Discord has the ability to log in through QR code. And if you can see, I'll give you a little bit of a zoom. It's not Discord. and it can be easily created by pretty much every public tool for social engineering and for creating fake landing pages. And the moment they take over the account, they usually just spread on, they continue with their phishing, and they try to affect as many people as possible. And last but not least, my favorite is malware. It's the hardest to pull off, but at the same time, it's the highest reward because compared to other methods, you have access to the whole computer and you just have fun. The problem with that is there's a lot of developers in that field, and there's now like a weapons race. So much so, there's an actual cult following to some of the tools, and it created actual malware communities. So they're like gaming communities, and now you have a community for a specific malware. Okay, that's fine. So in that case, let's do a little pretend. Let's pretend we are new to the world of cybersecurity. We're trying to become a very cool black hat, although we are script kiddies, but who knows. And we have a best friend who's with us in those servers. And that best friend just sent us a message. And just to show you, this is still the classic impersonation. Again, the very, very recent member, the fake R, all of that. And this is the beginning of our chat. But hey, we don't know that. We just want to have a new malware to play with. A little bit of terminology. Discord grabber or Discord stealer are both synonymous for basically the tool that uses that steals tokens. And I can assume you already understand that the builder is a place where you just config a new sample and just use it for fun. And let's say, okay, we fell for it. We downloaded, and we open it. We have a little config. And again, this is a real example, real life example. I'm trying to imitate what's happening with the Kurdistan 4455 group. They ask us for a Discord webhook URL. It's a common trick to exporting information, but I will go into that a little bit later. They're gonna ask us, okay, do we want a startup? Do we want a Discord stealer? I assume that's the thing we downloaded, but okay. And do we want browser data? Okay. Now they're gonna say something good to us. Nice job. You just wrote yes, yes, yes a couple of times, and it's gonna be stuck on your builder. Your stealer is building. Please wait. Well, at this point, we already made a big oops. So what actually happened here? First of all, virus stealer builder is just smoke and mirrors. In reality, what's going to happen is it's going to print out that beautiful banner, take the input, and just sleep. Nothing. To add to that, you're going to do a little bit of a misdirect. They're going to download a already pre-built executable file called build, which should trick most attackers of, hey, you have a new config. Although you never know, they might be just telepaths and just know exactly what I want. And here we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive inside of the architecture of the Stealer Builder and how it works. It uses 3 parts. Biggest part, 2 of them are public. 1 of them is custom made by the attacker. I was able to find that. And it's written in Python. So I heard a lot of people online say Python isn't used for malware. Here's the biggest example. This whole threat landscape is just way too crazy about Python. And it's converted to an executable through the simple and nice PyInstaller, which is extremely easy to use. So layer number 1, or code base number 1, the obfuscation. Those guys stole a obfuscation system from a different malware developer, specifically a French one, and they just reused his code. I don't know, do we call base64 an actual layer? It's such a common thing to happen. I was contemplating even to put it in. But then they use like a custom library that kid made. which is kind of nice. But again, everything is in Python, so you can reverse engineer it easily. You can rerun it. There's no problem with that. And let's jump to the next part, which is under those layers. Next part is the biggest Discord stealer on GitHub called Empyrean. It has a massive cult following. The information is a little bit outdated. I think it has already 350 stars on GitHub and over 20 commits, something like that. So it's massively popular and very, very actively developed. And it has a lot of cool modules. First of all, it has the anti-debugging and anti-VM, which is just standard, but I'll give you a little hint. It's not that standard in that threat landscape. It's kind of new. It has the persistence through a registry path, which is the classic run once on when you start the computer. And it has info stealing capabilities. It's going to go over all the Chromium-based browsers on your computer and try to collect the tokens, the payment information, the web history. All of that is going to bundle that alongside with the same information from Discord. And a not so fun fact, if you ever bought Discord Nitro, Discord will store your credit card information locally and just easy pickings. And then it's going to take all of that, zip it up, and set it through a webhook. Last but not least, there's the hidden payload. I say hidden because there's one more layer that's protecting it. They use this time the Python codex library for that. And this one I was able to identify what's written by the actual malware author. It's, again, a very simple info stealer. It steals the same information as the previous one and goes through the Discord and the Chrome information and all that. So there's a lot of code reuse here. And again, the exfiltration through a webhook. I said that like 20 times already, the exfiltration through a webhook. But how does it work? We're going to go to that in a minute. Before that, have you ever wanted to host a payload for free? Yeah, easily accessible for everyone. No downtime, and not a single IT admin can actually stop it. Just upload it to Discord. As soon as you send a message on Discord with a file, it gets uploaded to their servers, and it gets a publicly available and publicly facing URL. So it's extremely easy to get. And if you're cheap, you can upload up to 50 megabytes for free. If you pay a little bit of money, you can upload up to a half gigabyte. Just crazy numbers. And again, all of this 100% uptime and is not blockable by any IT admins or any security, because Discord uses those URLs on a daily basis. So any red teamers here, that's a pretty cool thing you can abuse. Now let's talk about the actual webhook. Webhook itself is kind of simple. The way you create it is you go through a channel, and you can specifically add a webhook to the channel. Every time you're going to use that, basically the way you use it is you send a request to that URL, and the moment you send it, it sends a message to the channel. It's great for one-way communication. Again, it's impossible to block it because it's used a lot by Discord itself, and should bring a lot of red flags the moment someone tries to seize that on the network. And there's no need to authenticate, so it's even stealthier than that. And on the other side, you can here the way they use it. There's a simple Python library for Discord that creates those webhooks. You can create a full-on fake username and shows up pretty normally. This is, for example, the Chrome and Microsoft information from the Empyrean stealer. And at this point, I want to stop for a second and talk about some information that I was not able to put inside the actual presentation because of legal stuff, but we'll tell you that those guys did a massive accident with their opsec. You see the thing here. after the GitHub, I had to censor, and that's because they used the actual username of themselves on GitHub, and on that GitHub, they decided to publish their own server. So you could have just got it into their Discord server and just enjoy their conversation and watch and learn how they operate. And somehow they also decided to publish their Instagrams, their Spotify. So if anyone wants just Turkish rap by any chance, just talk to me. And it's not for a specific person. Pretty much the whole group, which consists of about 50 to 100 members, all of them are the same level of opsec fail. All of them publish their Instagram. All of them are publicly even talking about that. For one of them, I was even able to find some crazy things, like he posted a story of a lot of knives and guns, and 2 stories after that, you can just see him walking in an airport. So I know for sure his specific airport I'm not gonna visit. That was pretty scary. And I have to say also that we sent that information to the appropriate authorities. Hopefully they'll stop that. Yeah, that's kind of scary. And last but not least, the favorite Discord API. Officially, it's used to create bots, and of course, it's not. It's been misused a lot for command and control. It's a very, very straightforward way to communicate. You basically have a chat with that bot, and you can just control all your victims. And there's a massive community support right now because it's a very, very popular feature and very needed. But again, like all features before that, it's almost impossible to block, and it's extremely problematic. Unless you have a way to dive inside of the encrypted traffic, because everything is happening over HTTPS, you won't be able to see it. And still, you will need to do some analysis on the actual traffic, and then and only then you'll be able to block it. Now, let's talk about some trends in the landscape and see some information of what's actually happening. I talked a lot about, Discord and whatnot, but without any information, we're kind of blind. So I did a little bit of digging, and I did some data mining on GitHub. They kind of hated me for a while. They have a very strict rate limit, but I was able to pull information of 2,500 approximately repos. All of them were tagged as Discord stealer, grabber, token grabber, all of those names and tags. And just the number of 2,500 is crazy. The fact that this is such a publicly available tool and threat landscape, basically, it's scary. And some statistics about them. First of all, most of them were written in Python, and which is understandable. And those are the standalone variation. And there's about 20% of them that are written in JavaScript. Well, you might ask why JavaScript, but I will want to remind you that Discord is a Electron.js app, meaning it runs JavaScript natively on your computer, and it gives full access to the computer itself. With that specific JavaScript, it's an injected module. So the moment you start your Discord, you can actually just abuse it and be stealthy inside of Discord. This is something that is really, really stealthy and just crazy. And here's a little graph about the commits per month. The way you can read it is on the left, there's the years, and each row, each column, sorry, is the actual month and the amount of commits spread among those 2,500 repos. And you can see that it just picked up pace. It's more popular than ever. It's staying strong, and sadly, one of the things I want to say is it probably will never leave us, at least for the time being. And on the contrary, I wanted to see, okay, what's happening in the wild? I did data mining from VirusTotal and downloaded all the samples and the statistics about them. I found it later, but I only did it on the samples that were sandbox, and I checked only based on behavior. I didn't want to jump on any files that were just containing the strings. And you will see how the recent anti-analysis and anti-sandbox systems they implemented affects those numbers. So, for example, the content delivery network, the payloads are hosted on GitHub, not GitHub, sorry, Discord. You can see it's staying strong, it's popular, but at the same time, there's a downtrend as of last year, and it's, I have to say, it's continuing. It's harder and harder to detect those because most of the tools just use anti-sandbox and anti-VM and all of those techniques. Second part is the webhooks. You can see the pretty modest but still impressive amount of tools that use webhooks to extract information. And again, there's that freaking downtrend at the end. And the upcoming prized champion of the misuses, API calls, is just growing on and becoming more and more popular as we speak, and haven't had a chance to fully check it out on this year. But again, from what I saw, there's just an uptrend, and more tools use it instead of the webhooks because it just gives them more flexibility. So towards the end here, I'm gonna talk about the additional observations. First of all, there's a massive shift from the Python to compiled languages. So and they started moving to Rust and C++ and all of those, which makes them faster, stealthier, and better. At the same time, it also shows the growth of the threat landscape. It's important to say that most of the people who write that malware are kids. So the fact that they're moving to languages like Rust just means they're getting better and more educated. And sadly, this is the biggest like nesting ground for new malware developers that are Black Hat. There's a massive popularity right now of injection models. Pretty much every tool that's compiled is starting to also introduce a injected module with it. And there's another shift, which is kind of slow, but still, to other platforms. So you can think about every pretty much platform that uses an API call on a daily basis or has any webhooks. I won't try to name drop everyone, but at the same time, Slack, Teams, things like that have pretty much the same features. And there's also a pretty cool new tool that uses Notion for command and control. So for any red teamers, just go check it out. I can almost assure you that no blue team has actually blocked Notion. So that's kind of funny and fun. And for conclusions, don't lower guard, especially on those platforms that are considered leisure time. I know it's kind of dumb to say that to a room filled with cybersecurity researchers and people who do this on a daily basis, but it can happen to everyone. And another thing is, from the defender perspective, not every webhook and API call is benign. It's extremely hard to differentiate between the benign ones and the malicious ones, but do keep in mind it does happen. And last but not least, the biggest point of all of this, it's extremely hard to protect against those misuses. And sadly, I don't see any big shifts in the industry, for example, for Discord and things like that try to actually stop that. As you saw earlier, they only just made it easier, and now you can actually just create any username you want without paying money and just have fun. Yeah.